Welcome to Living Life God's Way. Real life, real talk, real hope. Every show. Join us every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. as we discuss topics relating to life, church, family, education, and so much more. Invite a friend. Tag them even. But don't you dare miss the show. Living Life God's Way. Every Thursday at 6:30 p.m.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Everybody,
Hey.
welcome to Living Life God's Way. We are glad you are with us. As you can see, we are in two different locations. Well, the ladies are together, and I'm here all by myself. And
Oh, tears.
that shall not be for long.
No.
All right. So, ladies, welcome. Thank you for being with us again. Please say hello to our people.
Good evening. Welcome. Hope you have a good show. Now, we're looking forward to part 2. For those who missed it last week, we will do a little recap shortly. But yeah, we're looking forward to continuing this heated discussion.
Certainly a good evening, pleasant good evening to you, and welcome again. And as usual, I hope you're ready to type in your comments, your questions, and also get ready to share the link with others. We're really going to have an important discussion, and I think we really need to discuss it. So join us, and let's go.
All right. So, thank you, ladies. So, as we have been saying for the last episode, we have been discussing our raising women to be men, and we've gotten some interesting thoughts from persons on the side. We've also had our own thoughts as well. But this evening, ladies, we want to be able to say, is this the case? Yes, or it is not the case. Based on our thoughts, the media, and all of these different things. So I'll start off, and I'll say, based on what I have been seeing, I would say to some regard that is the case from the point of view of what is going on in the world now. We've seen some change in what we in the behavior of women and stuff, and we want our viewers to know this is not a biased discussion this evening by any means, nor is there any generalities going on here. We are sharing our thoughts, and as we said last week, based on what TDJs would have shared, which caused a global discussion or a global stir because of who he is. So we thought that we here in the Caribbean, we'll talk about it from our point of view. Ladies, you want to jump in? We've already given the definition last week, so maybe we don't have to do it again unless you feel we can. So go ahead, please.
I think it's even following, as you said, it was a discussion from TD Jakes. I have been listening to some of the discussion that has been coming out of his clipping there. And, first of all, I would say persons responded a bit prematurely. They did not hear the entire content because he was preaching at a Father's Day service. And the whole gist of it is about men having their roles to fulfill. All right. However, as he went on to talk about women, he's recognizing that society has not been celebrating what is really femininity. Somehow the definition changed because of circumstances. And this is what we need to be mindful of, because if a woman chooses to take on, let's say, the masculine role, then along with that will come some features in her personalities, the way she talks, the way she presents herself. And on research, you're saying that by the way you present yourself, it can attract or distract what you would like to attract into your life. So it's something that needs to be discussed, and also is a form of helping women as well, because sometimes you might say, oh, you're looking forward for this particular experience in life, but how come, you're not attracting, or the right guys are not coming to me? You have to look at what it is you're doing, what kind of energy that you're giving out. Yeah. Let me hear.
Mark, you want to
Colin, but Colin might have a different twist.
No, I think what you said is correct. I agree. And what Pastor Brian was talking about, also I agree with. I think the one thing that I got, another thing that I got from TD Jakes is a sermon from the clip that's been going around. He was talking about obviously relationships and women's roles having changed because of societal differences and women going out to work and all of that. But also what I picked up was that he's also mentioned about men not necessarily function in their full masculinity. Because he mentioned something about, women pouring too much into men, and the man should be pouring in to a woman.
Right.
So I think even though we are talking about, our topic is raising women to be men, I don't think we can have that discussion without touching on our men being men, our men being raised, or males being raised to be men, and why the shift in women and the hyper focus on women. Because even if we talk about, and I don't want to go down this line too much because it's extremely sensitive, but the whole kind of transgender agenda, a lot of the discussion is around women. A man wanting to be a woman, and what is a woman? And if you look at the trending now, is what is a woman? No one can explain, no one can justify or pinpoint a specific description about what a woman is. So there's a lot of talk about the woman, but I'm not hearing as much discussion about men and what it is to be a man, what it is to be masculine. And I don't think we can have this discussion without touching on that also, because it's the two, they go hand in hand.
I know, and I would totally agree with Colleen. And, by talking about women taking on this masculine role, we are not judging, we are not putting down or anything like that. Because honestly, sometimes we take on this role not intentionally, but think of a single mom, or a mom who has to take care of a child, and unfortunately the guy is not providing, he's not seeing the importance of his role, or even he could have passed on, he could have died. She has to project herself, she has to work in a certain way, she has to remain in maybe a competitive environment and still be strong enough to do all of these roles. And sometimes in doing all of these roles, you come out stronger, or the masculine side may come out. And I will tell you, I went through that, right? Because, and this is something we don't even realize. And I didn't even realize it. I remember someone was saying, anytime you are at work or in this position of your authority or whatever you're doing, you have this strong walk, right? And I didn't pick that up. It's only when I'm relaxed, but when you're relaxed, or your shoulders relax and you move and you see that feminine quality. So in other words, our role, our function, or task sometimes pulls that out of us, right? But what we will call the norm for what we do now is you have to consciously sit down and think, what do I want to project as a woman? What it is I want out of life? Where am I going? And based on that, we have to assess what it is we do. Yeah?
What are some of the... Sorry.
Go ahead.
I have these questions.
Let it out.
I have these questions.
Uh-huh.
When we talk about women and male, taking on a male role or behaving like men, a lot of the time we hear it's about providing. Yeah, we talk about the women providing, looking after her household, looking after her children, working and paying all her bills. But Proverbs 31 woman talks about the woman working.
Yeah.
It talks about her looking after her household.
Yeah.
So what part of doing that is masculine?
I think based on definitions and the words that we used last week in terms of defining men, you hear the words like aggressive, bold, strong, and all of that. so that when you find the woman is aggressive, and she come,
Assertive.
which, yes, I know, right?
Assertive.
Aggressive, or as called,
assertive. But when it's applied to women, it becomes aggressive.
That's the next bias,
Yeah.
right? So with these all changes here, that's what caused it. And as Colin just hinted there, for men, when they are doing their thing, it is being assertive. But when the woman does the same thing, she's being aggressive, right? Because based on the words again we shared last week, when you look at a woman, they're expecting you to be soft-spoken, gentle. What's the other thing?
Kind of
the sensual, showing that the feminine side, even in your dress and things of that nature. So that's what they're looking for. Yeah.
All right. It's interesting, hearing you guys talk about it. But I think, and Colleen raised a very interesting point when you said because a woman does something, that should be categorized as doing a man's functioning in a man's role. And
Right.
I think that's a very good point because somebody does something. Let's say, for example, if I go outside and I stop the traffic, I am doing the function of a police. So let's say there was an accident, I'm doing the function of a police. But I'm not a policeman. So therefore, even though I'm doing the function, it doesn't necessarily mean that I am the thing. And I think what has happened over the years is because, and you are right when it comes to women having to play different roles in the lives of the family and stuff like that, that they end up being this super strong person. But the issue that can be had is when a male then comes into their life, then there lies let's say a woman raised her children for a certain amount of years, and then she meets someone and they got into a relationship, they got married, and here's this guy coming into a relationship with a strong woman who would have made it herself for the last 15, 17 years. And here comes this guy who is also strong. Then these two personalities must now coexist together, which can lend to marriage in a marriage for sure. So when the point was made about are women raising women to be men, the point was made, so when we need this softer side, can we find this softer side? And can women be, as he showed me a good point in terms of women in the boardroom and stuff like that, can a woman be, the tiger or the lion in a boardroom and then go home and be the loving wife and mother to her children after she has presented this force, this strong person in the boardroom to get business done. And you applaud when you're in the boardroom to get business done and you're doing a good job. You have some women leading nations and so on. But then when you get home, where you have a strong man, therein lies the issue.
Agreed.
The ability now to, I think somebody asked last week, now do you switch off? Do you switch off from that strong person? And if you switch off, how can you switch off if you're accustomed to, you play this strong role for 8 hours a day, 9 hours in some cases, and then you get home at 6 in the evening, and then you're like, okay, I am home now. It's time for me to just be quiet, loving mommy and wifey, so that my family is now happy. You ladies, and I want to ask you both this question because both of you are strong and you lead various aspects of your forte daily. So how do you do that? Let's start with you, Dr. Connie. Let's start with you.
I knew you were going to start with me.
In the world.
I didn't hear that, sorry.
I was asking how in the world do you get that done? You see, Cherie says, I'm home.
It takes some work. It takes some work. I can only speak from my own personal experience, but I think you have to pray a lot. You have to pray a lot. But you have to have that communication. I think it is about that communication, sitting down and talking with your partner, husband, spouse about expectations, what you expect, what they expect, if you can meet those expectations, where there's some that you might have to compromise on, is a give and take. I think also it's about, I mean, like I said before, there's certain things that are women's role that I don't do. You know, I don't do the washing, for example. I don't do taking out the bins. I mean, that's a man's role, I think, personally. But I just think whoever cooks shouldn't take out the bin. That's my rule. Whoever cooks doesn't take out the bin. So as I do majority of the cooking, because I like to cook, you know, my husband or my son will take out the bin. But it's about communication. I mean, I think that's, you know, don't want to simplify the issue, but it is about communication. It's about knowing strengths and weaknesses, and about expectations. And we talked in our show about that communication. You have to have that communication. You have to speak to one another. You have to know each other's languages. And we talked about love languages. You need to know each other's styles. You know, a woman might not necessarily want to be, you know, tactile and touchy-feely. She may like, you know, an act of service. Like for me, I like acts of service. If my husband washes my car or fills my car up with gas or takes it to go and get checked, that's great. I don't necessarily need, oh baby, you look so good, and flowers, and I don't need all of that. But take my car to get clean and come back. Oh, fantastic, wonderful, thanks. You know, love you for life. But so you've got to
for life.
Yeah. The washing my car. I'm not that simple, but trust me. But you get my understanding. So you have to understand and communicate with one another and know strengths and weaknesses. I mean, there's a lot of women who are very good at organizing household finances, for example. But then there's women who aren't. And so, you know, hopefully her husband or partner will be able to do that better. But I just, you know, I think it's about personal preference and it's about communication.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. So maybe Sharon, you can go on to this, answer this one.
Well, I'm going back. I have to go back in my history books, but certainly, especially, well, how can I put it? From what I remember, going to work and coming home, it had to click on my mind and consciousness, because when you're dating is one thing, but then when you get in the home is another story altogether. And I know for a fact, two masculine. Second?
The home?
The home.
Yes, in the home environment. When you're married and you're there 20, you know, first.
You said home.
Okay.
You understand? So, but as I remember for sure, I remember there came a time, because for me, I'm the head where I'm working. And, you know, you are responsible. You have to make sure everything is done. You're doing it. But then it had to dawn on me when I got home, Sheridine, you have to stop doing so much. You have to relax. And tell you the truth, it was not an easy trip. It's a reconditioning of the mind, right? And for a woman now, in these times, especially, okay, let's say if she's dating, she has to now learn to step back, let the guy open the door. I always come back to this at some point. Let him pay for the meal. Let him do this. Give him the opportunity. If there's a heavy box, you know, let him carry it. And you know what? I have observed that there are some men, they're so careful when they're asking, like if I go to buy a gas tank, may I help you lift the tank? And the way is like, he's not sure how you're going to respond. And I do know that no, I can handle it. I good. But no, not me. It's like, hey, thank you so much. I mean, carry it to the car. I mean, you know, so all these recognizing that you don't have to do it all. You don't have to be in charge of everything. And there's some things you can just give like suggestions and give him the opportunity to think and work through and hear what he comes up with. But give him the opportunity to be in charge. And I don't know about her. I know about me, right? Having now being single and managing, doing all these things. There comes a time it's like, geez, I wish you don't have to do all these roles. I'll do it as long as the Lord will have me. But you just would like that masculine type of environment where you don't have to be. You get what I'm saying?
While you were saying that, I was actually thinking
Yeah.
that as much as about communication and what have you, there comes a time when, like you, myself, I come home and I don't want to do anything.
Yes.
I've been doing it all day. I've been giving instructions. I've been
There you
organizing.
go.
I've been, you know,
In charge
doing
of
the
this.
in charge of this, in charge of that. I
Yeah.
actually want to come home. I don't want to think about anything. Don't call my name. Don't, you know, I don't want to hear mummy. I don't want to hear Han. I don't want to hear Colleen. I don't want to hear anything. Just
Pamper me.
Yes.
Pamper
Where's
me.
my grapes? Do you know what I mean? Just like,
Pamper me.
yeah, you don't want. So
Yeah.
sometimes,
So,
you do
ladies,
if they're being honest, you do get to that point that sometimes you
You
feel a
get
little bit
tired
burnt
of it.
out.
Yeah, burn out because you're acting
so
in
I
two
want to
different.
ask you this question. So even so outside of your home where you are submitted to your husband or whatever, what about, let's say, like you have the charity at work, you may be
Yeah.
the senior where you are in charge of other meals, where
Yes.
other meals report to you and stuff like that.
Right.
How do you manage that then when it comes to you are the boss of meal now and
I had
meals
to.
have to come? How do you manage that now?
I had to go in that capacity because when I initially was in charge of the guys, you'll be given instructions and you'll be, because you're taking instruction from the head, and you have to interpret that within the department and make sure certain things. And if I like to get things done and have it ready according to deadlines and so on. But however, even though I was using that method and getting through with projects and meeting deadlines, I recognized that there wasn't all that happiness and ease. And I'm saying to myself, no, this cannot work because this world life is already stressful. And I think when you come to work, you should be able to find a space where you work, where you can be happy and relax yourself. And I remember praying and asking God, how do I handle these things? And then it dawned on me, the Lord, it just hit me, Shirley, you are in charge of men who are leaders at home. So I changed my approach completely. And I said, guys, I'm thinking about this idea where tell me, what do you think is very important in the department? What is needed? And each of them called a point. So I said, how about you be in charge of that particular point that you mentioned? You handle it. I'm not going to micromanage, but the only thing, if you're running into trouble, if you're not getting through by a certain time, you let me know. And whatever you decide to do, pass it through me before it leaves the department. And everybody was happy. And that's how we worked for years. We've had going through the pandemic. We can laugh, talk, encourage one another. So it has been about letting him lead in their area, letting them voice their opinion, letting them be in charge, and let them make a mark so they know that they're putting something into the department that they can be proud of. So it's about accepting their strengths as well.
What I agree. I had a whole team of men, and that's exactly what I did. I just gave them delegate. Just you pick a responsibility that you want to take on, and work with it, and that was fine. However, what happens when you come across a man who doesn't lead or doesn't assume the male or the masculine role? And I think that's where some of the challenges are coming from with women today assuming these masculine roles, because there are some men, not all, but there are a few men who are not either equipped, haven't been socialized, haven't been trained, or just refuse to accept that leadership role, because leadership roles come with work.
Correct.
It comes with responsibility.
Yes.
And some men are appearing not to want to take on that role. And I think that's where then women are thinking, well, I have to step in because they're not doing it.
But that's a point, and that's a point TD Jakes brought out. You can have the guy looking, he's dressed in his Gucci and looking handsome and everything, but then when it comes to the time for him to pour out into the woman, there's nothing there, right? And he said, in other words, what do you do as a woman? So from what gist of what I got from him, he said, one, you can either take on this masculine role, one, or the other thing is, as a woman, you should insist. In other words, well, let's say, for example, the car door, just another example, normally the car door should be opened by the guy, and how is he responding to that role, right? So like for me, if I know that is what I expect, I can walk to the car and I'll wait. I wouldn't move until, I can open it. I can, but no, if I'm going out on a date, I will wait.
You have to come outside.
Oh, no. We'll
lean over.
That's fine.
Right. Let's just question here from I see a question here from that why can't men just accept a woman as the leader and give her the same respect as if another man? I'll answer this, Cherie, and maybe you ladies may want to answer from a woman's point of view. I think the question is, it's on the screen. Why can't men just accept a woman as the leader and give her the same respect as if they were another man? I think.
No. You answer.
Yeah, I'm going to answer. I think by nature, right? By nature, men may feel as if their ego is being challenged if a woman is the leader, particularly if you have a woman who, because there are women I know who lead, and the way they lead doesn't make men feel small. I think the challenge when there's a woman who makes the man feel small, and from the time you do that, you're messing with ego, which is a big part of it. That's how God made us. So you ladies can't be vexed with us for having an ego. That's how we were made by God. So,
yes, you have to.
Oh, you manage, of course, you manage. Yes.
Adjust balance.
However, ladies, it is very important. Even you may not want to accept it or whatever, but it's very you can crush a man if you crush his ego. And I think when you have women with that kind of personality where they're let me give you an example. I know a guy when he takes money to give to his daughter, the mother takes the money from him and just throws it on the table. So it's like, he said to me, wow, I feel as if what I just gave her was 0.00.
Oh dear.
She's obviously in a better financial position than he is, and stuff like that. So, I see it. So I say, boy, just do what you have to do. So stuff like that can crush a man. And if you have where a woman is in a more advantageous position at the point in time, those things can crush a man, the way how you speak, what you say to him, and stuff like that. So I think that's where the challenge lies with men being leaders. And then, of course, you have women being leaders, sorry. And then, of course, you have the men who have serious issues because, from childhood.
Yeah.
And the more and more I study, I realize that a lot of our issues as adults comes from within our childhood. And when we get older, we really ought to look to make some serious adjustments because of what we have learned and, what we have been taught. But, that's a major thing from the ego. And, and as you guys say, yes, you have to manage everything because all that God has given to us, we still have to manage. You ladies want to jump in here?
Yeah, and the whole, I remember the scripture where it talks about dwelling with each other according to knowledge, right? And I think that is what is needed, a lot of, should I say, re-education, in terms of women understanding themselves and also women understanding men. And the other thing too, men understanding themselves as well and understanding women. It's better when we understand each other, which is like a give and take. I always say it's like an interlocking of fingers, you know. If you stick with what you think you know and the other person stick with what they think they know, there will always be a button. There will not be a two coming together, right? But even with the example that you give, that is where the woman needs to be educated and reconditioned. Because I remember looking at a video on that same issue where the man was working real hard, but he wasn't bringing in enough, and she was more, you know, she's getting paid more, and she would be with an attitude, and that would be breaking him down because there it is, he's giving out, and look. And so the reality is that she had to be retaught that, you know what, he is still willing to contribute. He is still willing to be a part of the household. So in other words, acknowledge what it is he is doing and be humble about what you're doing. It's a team though, working together. It's not a competition. And that is something that we have to examine even in the early stages. Are we competing with each other? Are you coming into the relationship saying, I have my own car, I have my own house, I have my own this and that, and you have that like a flag flaunting it? You know, it's not about that. It's about understanding what is needed, learning to step back, and him learning to come forward a little bit more and encouraging each other in the road. And I don't think you should walk into marriage or say I do until you get a good feel or understanding of this principle.
Right.
You're going to be good to each other.
Yeah. So how do you do? Let me ask it another way. Do you think that a female should be the softer vessel when it comes to the human race? Do you think the female should be a softer vessel? Rather softer in speech, softer in attitude, softer in what she does, her stuff. Not softer in terms of softy, right? Because I'm not talking about where you have someone and female is a softy, soft kind of person. That's not what I mean. I mean, is it like you guys should have this kind of grace on you that is much mellow than we men? What do you think about that?
Think about this very carefully. I'm inclined to say yes.
Okay.
Inclined to say yes. With everything, there's always a spectrum and exceptions to the rule and what have you. But I think, in some respects, yes, because I suppose I don't want to say our natural ability to have children and what have you, because not all women either can have or wants children. But I guess
Right.
the function of the woman who does have children, you have to apply that kind of nurturing, caring persona because you're caring for a child. So I think, and that's where the label comes from, that women are supposed to be nurturers and carers and what have you. But as I said, that doesn't necessarily make you less feminine, I don't think, if you're not naturally nurturing. I mean, I'm not overly maternal, as I keep telling you. I'm not overly maternal. I'm not one of those women who always wanted children and always wanted to be married and all the fairy tales.
But let me jump in here before we move on. Yeah, let me jump in here before we move on, Doc. So you mentioned that if a woman decides, I don't want any children and stuff like that, that's okay. That's fine because then not everybody will have.
True.
The other point is, we said about nurturers. Do you not think that women are naturally nurturers, whether they are nurturing their own children or nurturing somebody at work or nurturing somebody at church or whatever? Do you think women are naturally nurturers or no? When I say, I'm thinking, majority. Do you think
Yeah.
the majority?
Yeah. I'm not necessarily going to say we're naturally nurturers, but I think we tend to be more nurturing than men. That's what I will say. I think that, yeah, I think a women are, in general, if we're generalizing, I don't like to generalize, but if we're generalizing, you know, women tend to be, not that men are not, I think sometimes men are very nurturing, but because of the way they've been socialized, the way that people will look at them, oh, he's a softie because he, you know, he's showing those nurturing attributes. So they tend to not display them for fear of being called soft or, you know, or not being a man and what have you. So I think that comes into play. But I think generally, from my experience, from my circle of friends and church and what have you, yes, women tend to be more naturally observant to certain things when it comes to caring and to nurturing.
All right. Sharon, you want to jump in? Let's share that point.
Well, I agree, and I would have just, you know, I tend to say yes because for the most part, they're the ones that will hug, the caring, or bend over, listen, talk, try to understand, and all of. They go into the details of what's going on, right? Or I'll find like with some guys will say, "Well, I'm to go to your mother then."
Yeah,
you know, this kind of thing. From time you get the child getting emotional. Oh, where your mommy? Where your mother? you know, even sometimes in the school environment, or you talk to your former mistress. you know, so it's a natural thing. And then again, I find as a woman, when the child needs someone that could be this strong, firm, you know, not saying the woman can't do it if she could, because she can come in, because it's the women are more adaptable in terms of role. So she can do it. But if you have a gentleman or someone in the environment who you respect and trust, I will send them over. You know, especially if it's a male student, go to so and so, let him deal with that, and because we talk and say, all right, he will talk to you on that matter, you know. But women are naturally, I find they're inclined to be nurturers, you know. I just saw a question there coming in from Tamisha, a question or a statement where she said it is so difficult for women after they've been single for a long time and doing everything, then when in a relationship to adjust. And I agree. I remember a few years ago when I just started, and I remember dating, and it's like that was always the toss up. Oh, you're always doing this, or you coming across here strong, or you're doing so and so. And it's like,
but then you want to take a
that's
break.
all I know.
But then you want to take a break. Take a break. See it as taking a break. See it as taking a break.
I don't have a problem now, though.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a problem now.
So what about man? There's some females that come over so strong. I remember a time I heard a minister told a lady the husband was complaining about how aggressive she was as a person, and the minister told her, you gotta tone down. You gotta tone down a bit. You are too like tone down a bit. Tone down a bit. And she asked, what? She asked, what? Well, why tone down? This is me and stuff. But the husband was saying, but you are always too like ready to argue. You're always ready to. So he was saying, tone it down a bit. And the world that I know circumstances and stuff like that has made women like we just said in terms of when a woman is by herself, then she may come over as too strong. But what if a man is by himself and he's very strong? Well, then there you see. So you have this off balance thing here going on, and I listened to a Miles Monroe clip earlier, and he was talking about when a man meets a woman, that in his head he had this great picture of this woman. He says, "Get it out of your mind. She doesn't exist. You have to cultivate her cultivate her into what as a man, so that she can be the partner that you need. And I thought that was a very interesting point to to make. But I'm
Yeah.
as we maneuver in the world today, and in our workplaces, and I ask you ladies this question: as you move around in church, as you move around, you go to the supermarket, you go get your hair done, all these different aspects of life and stuff. Do you ladies see it coming over as women are strong, too strong, or do you think there's a balance? What do you see as women? Is there a balance, or you're saying like it's kind of tilting on the other side? What are your thoughts?
I think it's mixed. Calling you with this look. I think it's mixed. It all depends on the who. All right. Now, I find for some of the women who are married and are more mature in age, they're they tend to be more gentle or not as loud. I don't know, I shouldn't say loud, but let's say they're not as strong, right? But I find the younger ones who maybe you can tell they're well educated, they have everything going for them, who I ain't care about that, boy. I ain't putting up with that. No, nah, this is nonsense. And it's like you feel they're nice until you hear them talk. You understand? And listen, I understand, yes, you have to be, but you don't have to be, And as the guy you mentioned, the minister would said tone down. He isn't really helping her because you said tone down. You have to explain what you mean by tone down. In other words, give the man a chance to speak. Listen to what he has to say. Pass over your idea as a suggestion, not an order. You understand? Allow him to discuss. Give him time to think. He might process things slower. For me, certain things, as soon as I say, nah, I don't want that. But then I have to learn to okay, until they come up with the answer. So all these things, you have to prepare for what you want to do. If you know you're going into marriage, you have to be prepared to sit down, assess what you want, what have been your habits, do your research. They have things, Google, we look in Google, they have things that tells you what is the trait of a feminine or whatever have you, or female, whatever. So you can balance and find yourself in between there. You must know when if I'm talking too much, I have to slow down, give him a chance to put in. You must know that from the time you open your mouth, you got to learn to hold it back though and let him talk. As you'll have a one-sided and you'll always end up in an argument. The relationship won't last, And at the same time, before you go, the ego thing too, some of the male, because the ego is so strong, they're not listening, and everything they interpret, they think you're attacking their person or what it is or your appreciation for them. We have to learn to put down our guards a little bit and meet somewhere there and connect. Shall we get along?
Ladies, when you think of a strong woman, what comes to mind, or what would be your personal? I don't want the Oxford definition, and what the Colleen and Charity definition. When you think of a strong woman, what comes to your mind as it relates to a strong woman?
You go. I don't like strong woman. The trope. I don't like strong woman. I don't like strong black woman. I don't like strong woman at all. I just don't like the terminology. I think it comes with so much. It comes with so much heaviness. I think personally, as black women, particularly, is normally used to describe a black woman. I don't hear other races strong being attached to their gender. It's just woman, but when we're talking about strong women, it tends to be in relation to black women. So that I have an issue with that. First of all, I think it also creates for women having this label of strong woman, it creates all the, well, not all, but some of the issues that we're seeing.
Yeah.
This woman who feels that she needs to do everything because she's strong.
Yep.
She needs to look after the children. She has to look after the household. She has to go to work. She has to cook. She has to clean because I'm a strong woman.
And doesn't ask for help.
And doesn't ask for help, or they can't accept help because I'm going to be seen as a weak woman. And then a weak woman is not something that's desirable. No one wants to be weak man or weak woman. So I have a real challenge with the word strong and woman put together in the same sentence. So I'm a little bit biased and a bit passionate about that, to be honest, because I really do think it does, particularly Black women, a disservice, because we are continually aspiring, whether subconsciously or consciously, to this strong woman. I have to do it all. And we don't have to do it all. There's nothing wrong with not doing it all. And that's not about being weak. That's not about not being a good leader. That's just about knowing self, knowing your limitations, knowing what you can manage, and accepting that nobody's perfect. Whether you're man, woman, donkey, cat, nobody's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So personally, I have a real dislike for a strong woman. Just be a woman, be an independent woman, be an assertive woman, be an organized woman. There's so many other positive adjectives that we can attach to woman.
Hold on there. Let's go back there. Quick. Then you see, because that's another one that is overused. This and independent woman. What is that?
Well, independence means you don't rely wholly and solely on something or somebody else. And I think majority of women nowadays would be independent. They don't necessarily rely completely on a man. I mean, if you look at history, women weren't allowed to work, women weren't allowed to get mortgages or loans or anything like that. And they were totally 100% dependent on a man. Even in biblical times, if it wasn't their husband, it was their sons. So we know historically, and that's just fact, that women were at one time totally dependent. But that is not the case. So we are independent. I'm not saying independent, I don't need no man independent, because then we're going into this strong woman. I was going to say rubbish, but we're going into that line again, which I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
But I think independence is good for children. I think independence is good for a man. Independence is good for people in general. A level of independence, it gives you responsibility. It allows you to make decisions. It allows you to be accountable. It allows you to manage. It allows you to be organized if you're independent. I think we sometimes take the independent spectrum to the very other end, which is into that strong woman zone, which I think is causing a problem. It's not about women being weaker or being weak or being submissive or whatever. It's just about knowing your limitations, knowing what you can do, what you can't, and when and where to ask for assistance. Exactly. That's not a problem.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, as they're saying, we have to look at changing the narrative. But for now, that's what people understand by strong woman. But for me, strength should be with regards to duty, virtue. Be strong in kindness, being loving, being supportive, being there to help. And of course, that role will step up according to whether if it's just dating, whether you just exist in society, or whether you are in marriage. Being able to pull things together, being able to encourage things to work together to an expected goal. I think women should be able to be part of something that connects to a purpose, and not necessarily have this approach where you're going to, as they would say, mash up or crush things to get it done. It's not necessary. You can be graceful, whether you choose to wear a dress or pants, whatever. You can be graceful in what you do and still get what you need done. And actually, I have been reading and hearing, if women understand their strength when they're of that feminine nature, they'll find they'll even get more things done or achieve when they walk in that capacity as a feminine, on that feminine side. You can get more things done. It's what you do and how you do it is what will give you the results. You understand? But what people sometimes fail to realize is that sometimes you go for the immediate benefit where I'm in control of this. He can't do me that. And sometimes it is happening out of fear. You know, I'm not going to submit myself to anybody who can cause me this hurt or disappointment. So I'm going to control this. I'm going to determine what happens all around me. So it would, in an attempt to, you know, protect themselves. But what they're actually doing is killing themselves indirectly. And I'll tell you why. Because at a certain point later on, you find the same women find they're burnt out. The same woman, you hear them talking, they're bitter. Oh, he don't do this and he don't do that and he don't so and so. But did you allow him to learn that he is responsible for doing X, Y, and Z? And I could be wrong, I might get in trouble, but sometimes when women, and I was guilty of that, when you say I do and you go into the marriage and you're so excited, you sweeping, you're mopping, you cooking, or you might be cleaning and doing everything because you want him to come home and meet everything perfect. That lasted for a while, you know, and you're working as well. So therefore, we got to be realistic, sit together, work out who's responsible for that, who would work out that, as Colin said many times. You won't see her in the washing room, no, but you'll see her wearing the clothes though. So, but then you'll see her in the kitchen forever. So you got to know what it is, each other, the strength, as she said, and try to operate within that. And I always put it this way, you know, just like the keyboard has black and white keys, and how, you know, how they work together to create such melody and such harmony. If we could learn to understand each other in that way, I think we can come up with something really beautiful.
I have two points I'd like to make. I'm conscious of time. I know we're running out. But one of the things that comes to mind as well, and what I've noticed as well, obviously we know there's a lot of single-headed households across the world, but particularly in the Caribbean, I think in Barbados, 51% of households now are female-headed households solely. So my call is to women who are raising these sons, who are going to be someone's future husband, future husband.
Yeah.
Be careful how you're raising your sons. A lot of women that I've worked with in overseas and here sometimes allow their sons to be their substitute partner. And I don't mean intimately or anything like that, but I mean in the home, because he's a male. And to a certain extent, that is fine. But I think what I'm seeing is that they're allowing them to have all the advantages of being the man of the house, but the responsibility that comes with it is not followed through. So a lot of the guys sometimes are not even working, but yet they can make rules in the household. They're making decisions and they're not working, they're not contributing or whatever. And I think we also need to be conscious that we're not men, so we can't teach them how to be men. But what we can teach them is probably how to treat women with respect and what have you. And that's some of the queries I've heard or cries I've heard from women, that a lot of men don't know how to treat women. And that, you know, I don't know how men kind of learn that, but as a woman, you can obviously teach your son how to treat a woman. Because I always say to somebody, you know, if you want to find out what a guy's really like, see what his relationship is with his mother, you know, or if you want to see what a woman's like, see what's her relationship with her father. Because I've said before, that's your first socialization with the opposite sex when you're growing up, is your father or a male role model in the home, or your mother or another female grandmother or auntie or somebody. So just that. And then the other point was, I wanted to question to you, Pastor, because you was asking all the questions. Now, everyone knows that I love Steve Harvey.
Yes.
Right? I love Steve Harvey. Now, one of his things is about the 3 Ps that men do for women that they love. He talks about they profess, provide, and protect. And I know a lot of women will say now that men that come into their lives or who they date or whatever tend not to profess, provide, or protect them. What say you?
I believe that I believe it has some truth to it. I think what has happened over the years, most men are not confrontational. So when a woman behaves as if I got it, I can get it, do by myself, I know how to do it, I was doing it before you came along. What men will do is do this and pull back. Okay, you can do that, cool, go ahead and do it. And stuff like that. So when that happens, I find that men more regress than move forward. However, I think when a man does love a woman, he will really protect her. He will really be not only in terms of physically, but also in terms of spiritually, in terms of putting and
Yes.
covering and stuff like that. I believe that's a man should do that as well, um, because he's in that place where he cares for the person. So I agree with that. Providing, certainly, you're being there in more ways than one for the person that you care about. You are in their life, so you are there. So I must say to you though, Doc, when there's some things that happens when a female, how do I put it? So there are some females that don't necessarily understand how man protects. Okay, so they say, babe, when you're going on the road, um, when you get close home, call me, or when you are on your way home, call me so you can estimate the time that you're coming in, because our garage is over all the way on the other side, and you have to walk that long way. So he doesn't say all of that. So his partner goes, why do I have to call you when I'm coming home? You think I'm going to stop somewhere or something confrontation?
It's true.
It's true.
He goes like, he doesn't ask anything because he knows once he acts that something like that is going to be this confrontational. And unfortunately, this is the story of a lot of males um, that I hear. I was on a program the other day, and you hear the stories from the males. We spoke of off screen and stuff like that, where you have this little issues and stuff going on. But I believe, like you said, the three P's, yes. You protect that person, you love that person, and if you're taking the instruction of the Bible is to love, you show your love, and I think that one of the ways of showing love for the weaker vessel is that protection, whether spiritually or whether physically. So I think that's important to do, and I would encourage our brothers to do it. Those who are watching the program and who are watching, yeah, but look out for your people. Look out for your people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I know while Colleen was raising her first point in terms of the female and the male children in the house, um, another point that comes up under that as well, because a woman cannot be a man, right? And teach a boy to be it. So it's good for a woman to look out for someone, maybe in her family or friendship circle, someone who, carry that role well and kind of create an atmosphere where there can be some degree of interaction. And not only that, for the woman now who's a single parent, you still have to be careful what you do because your daughter is looking at you. And you know what children see, they do and even better than you. So therefore, I try to be conscious that, whatever you're doing, I only doing all of this because, but you know what? You have to bear in mind if a male is in the story, give him an opportunity to help or you do whatever you're doing. So you have to be mindful of these two points so that you help your children come up in a balanced way. We're not raising women or children to be superwomen and all of that. It burns out. It backfires. There's enough facts, figures, coming from women who testify, they carried their role. They were, they were successful. They got everything. They're strong out doing everything, but then they had a lot of regrets. And when you listen to the regrets, you can't change it because time has passed. Decisions and opportunities gone. Someone who they thought was nice would have proposed, but because they didn't want anybody in their space, what I have is mine, and all that kind of thing, they end up with regret. So it's a lot of reconditioning that we have to bear in mind. And for us who know the Lord, we have the scripture as our guide to keep us, balanced. And it shows us how to work, submit. Someone talk about the women submitting to the men, but the Bible said both, they have to submit to each other in love, and in everything, come let us reason, there has to be that communication, that dialogue. And instead of backing away, I know it is non-confrontational, but if you don't face, what if David didn't confront his giant? What if? So therefore, there has to be that coming together of thought, mind, and emotion and prayers. That's the only way we can move forward in any form of relationship.
So, ladies, as we're coming to the end, because our time is gone, I want to ask you this question. So, as women, professional women in society and so on, do you see men as the head of the home? Do you see men as the head of the home? And when you say the head of the home, what are your thoughts on the head of the home? What do you mean by the head of the home?
Making decisions, leading. Like you talked about covering the family spiritually, in prayer and in actions. Being a good role model if there's children in the home. Being a good role model, holding on to the word and what you're supposed to do as a decent human being, much less as a man. But he should be the head of the household. He should be the person who makes decisions, leads, and covers the family spiritually.
Yep. I agree with that. And that is why for women, you have to be very careful who you select, who you choose to be the head. Because when you come, well, at least for me, as you asked, when he comes into the picture, well, I would gladly, as I say, give him the keys, in terms of decision. But when I say give him keys, I'm saying, yes, I'm still there. I'm going to be supportive. I'm going to tell you how it is I feel and what I think about that. So you can put both minds together and come up with something that works. But if, for instance, it calls for 2 glasses of water instead of 1, and he said he preferred 2, okay, fine, right? So you have to make sure you have someone there who has the capacity to love you, who has the capacity to respect you, and who cares about your emotions and how you feel, that you want to take that into consideration when he's making his judgment call, So, yes, about allowing him to be in charge. But just for us women, you have to remember, you choose who you're allowed to do that in your lives. And once you've made the right choice, there's no problem there. Hold on to the keys. I could rest now. But yeah, it's just choosing right.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Same for the man.
Yeah,
he's got to choose. He's got to choose right.
Yeah,
for men as well.
Yeah,
I think that works both ways. Because I think
and I agree here with what Shirley says. That's where he consults you, and you have
definitely
exactly.
And this is very, very this is very, very true. So this is very, very true. And Sam said, you said on both sides where you allow in your space as well. Now God has positioned an order, and I'm glad to hear you ladies, speaking so eloquently and accepting this is the head followed by the husband and the wife. And even though there are distinctive order. It doesn't mean that one competes or fight against the other. Work
Correct.
together, going up. Sometimes we look at it going down, but we should really look at it going up, where you
Up.
see the way
Yes. I like
and
that.
God. So it's like
Yes.
the way to get to God is to go through your husband who goes through Jesus, and you connect with heaven. Because anything other than that is also is out of order, and it doesn't. It's not saying that the husband dominates or rule over the wife. Because if a man loves a woman, then he won't want to treat somebody that he loves like that.
Correct.
That's where the two will have to work together. But I've found over the years that most women who have a challenge doing the opposite of what you guys just said either end up alone or they end up in some weird relationships. And because for
Yeah.
all the things, because we're talking about women today, that's why I'm
Yeah.
to women. But I found that this is the case, and they, it is like, I'm a strong woman. I have to have, discussion, and I have to, I have this kind of, and again, this is what draws men away. For those who are watching, I ask you ladies to be mindful of how you go at a man, because if you are looking for a partner and you are going at somebody that could potentially be your partner, you will always find the person people drifting away from you because you are always at the person, you know. So yeah, so good point, ladies, and thank you for sharing that. We've come to
Yeah.
the end of our session this evening. You have, ladies, want to give a 30-second closing remarks before we move on.
I'm all talked out. I think I think we did justice to the topic in the two weeks that we've covered. As I said, we are talking about women to be men, but you can't have that discussion without obviously having the reverse. And I just think back to my original point about communication. It's about communication. And when you're talking about partnerships, it's about communicating. And even when you're raising, because we're talking about raising, so also looking at children, when we're raising our children, or even if it's not your biological children that are in your community or in your presence, be mindful of these things. The world is a very different place to some extent when it comes to relationships, when it comes to male, female, man, woman, whatever. So I think more than ever, I would say the word has to be close. You have to hold that Bible close and take the instructions and be obedient, because nothing else right now, well, never has been, but even more so, nothing outside of that is sinking sand, basically. So that will be my closing.
Yeah, and I think my closing would be for the single mom who I saw the question popping up, who, they're wondering how can I handle this adjustment? Relearning is a process. Yeah. But it's just good to have before you a picture of the type of woman you would like to be. Marry that with the word of God, so that you make it a matter of prayer and you go through that reconditioning or relearning process. And you find as you continue with it, it gets a little bit easier and you begin to enjoy, that aspect of it, So don't be too hard on yourself. It has been what you're accustomed to because of scenarios, but just understand that you have a choice whether you continue in that way or you want to give God the opportunity to work on you. And especially if you're thinking about marriage, you're thinking about something that works together beautifully. You don't want to be thinking that you're going to be a mother in a sense to, I might get in trouble. But you want the guy to be a guy. You don't want to treat him like a child in that way. So you have to recondition yourself, and now is a good time to start thinking about it, especially if you plan one day to say, I do.
Correct. Well said.
Men like to be
No, say it.
I don't want to go into that's a whole other discussion. But your point about not wanting to mother the man, that's what you
Yes,
wanted
yes,
to say.
yes. I was,
But we
you
know that's a tentative subject because men don't want to be treated as children, but they want to be treated as children. If that makes sense when it comes to the nurturing, loving inside.
Let me explain that.
I don't want to go into another subject.
He said, let me explain that.
We want to be loved up,
Yes.
It's on your shoulder. Listen, blessed is the woman. Hear this. Blessed is the woman who finds a man who puts his head in her lap and have a conversation.
Yes.
Fine. No
Absolutely
problem.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. We'll get the grapes too.
Yeah. Blessed is that woman. So, because that action is saying, baby, I trust you with me. I am sold out with you. So you can tell when, and that's another one that you can tell when the guy is into the lady. He marry and he come on there and he starts to talk. You know that he's good, but when he goes off by himself, ding 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 ding, girl, watch yourself. You ladies were alluded to earlier in terms of the mother raising a boy child, and this is very crucial as as the female teaches the youngster stuff, the male. I think that it's important to be careful the message that you're sending across to him, because the way how you treat him, but also the way how you treat him will do two things. One, he will treat females similarly, or he will hate females similarly based on how you treat the child. So if you smother, if you give him the opportunity to make decisions, and I take your point that way you were saying earlier as well. But you must be, you have to allow him to make decisions. You go with your friends. Don't have your boy children on you all the time. Oh, mommy, let's lie down together. Mommy, let's go together. Mommy, let's go down together. No, let the boy go with his friends, even if you are over the other side. Yeah. So let's start putting my 2 cents there as we end. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us this evening. Dr. Ian, it's always a pleasure, my brother, having you pass through and share with us. If you can, Doc, WhatsApp me the link for your session tonight so you can pop on as well. So, ladies, we have come to the end of a great show. We hope that those who have been viewing have been blessed and encouraged, and they have understood and they have answered the question: are we raising women to be men in this society today? So, I hope that this program has been a blessing to you. And it's living like God's way. We talk about what they don't want to talk about on this show. And with the hope of having the discussion, you are coming to the place of wisdom and understanding and knowledge and truth, all backed by the word of God. So, on behalf of Dr. Colleen, Elder Charlene, and myself, we wish you a wonderful evening and God's blessing. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Welcome to Living Like God's Way. Real life, real talk, real hope, every show. Join us every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. as we discuss topics relating to life, church, family, education, and so much more. Invite a friend, tag them even, but don't you dare miss the show. Living Like God's Way every Thursday at 6:30 p.m.
Impacting